Voters turn the tide of 2020. Well, they're flocking to the polls to have their voices heard, but what do they have to say? Joining me now, Turning Point USA spokesperson and conservative Gen Z activist Isabel Brown, Democratic analyst Lakai Vincent, and campus reform correspondent Ophelie Jacobson. Thanks to the three of you for being here. I want to pop up this stat that is absolutely mind-boggling. From ages 18 to 22, general election early and absentee vote. Look at that. Almost 5 million more so far in this election compared to 2016. Isabel, first question to you. How much of a factor will young people be in this election?
Well, it's already proving to be a very exciting one that could tip the scale one way or another. But I do want to make sure people understand it might not be the deciding number in terms of the vote this fall, mainly because many Gen Z Americans are still too young to vote. But I can tell you that culturally, there is such a unique moment happening across our country now with enthusiasm for both President Donald Trump and for conservative ideas. I'm very fortunate to work with organizations like Turning Point USA and Students for Trump, and traveling the country the last few months has been so eye-opening with that enthusiasm factor.
Let's get down to the issues. Lakai, first question to you. What issues are important to young Democrats?
So I think that young Democrats are dealing with what I call the triple crisis. They're in America in general. They're dealing with a pandemic that has had a direct effect on how young voters are educated. The economy certainly is a number one priority for young voters because 1 in 4 16 to 24-year-olds lost their jobs between that time of February to May. So they're certainly interested in the economy and how they're going to be affected as it relates to their job loss or job placement in the coming years, as well as the social climate. We know that there is a social movement right now, and it's certainly important to young voters. They are involved in it, and they certainly not want to make only a difference in this presidential election, but the social climate as a whole.
Ophelia, a lot of the issues that Lakai mentioned there are showing up in surveys, polls, biggest struggles among young voters, again, ages 18 to 29. Lakai mentioned economy. Economy is the big one there, 28%. COVID-19 coming in there at 6%. Are those the same issues that Republican young people are facing, or are there other ones you'd want to add to the list?
Most definitely. I think the economy is a big issue. But again, college students are also looking for a presidential candidate that will protect their constitutional rights and that has a strong enthusiasm for this country. And President Trump is that man. Just last year, he signed an executive order protecting freedom of speech on college campuses. And at the Leadership Institute's campus reform, we've seen how college students, especially conservative students, have been silenced or suppressed simply for just speaking their beliefs and opinions on their campuses. And as a college student, I want to feel comfortable knowing that I can go onto campus and speak my own opinions and beliefs without facing any backlash.
Okay.
And under President Trump, I have felt more empowered to do so than ever before.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you each a lightning round question. We're going to put up this poll to start it off. If the election were held today, who would you vote for? Again, that same 18 to 29 group. 58% say Biden, 30% say Trump. So, Isabel, has President Trump been successful in presenting his message to young voters?
I absolutely believe so. It may not be reflected in the polling data, and every poll goes one way or another in different points to either side of the scale, but it is reflected in the hard data of grassroots activism. The last time I joined Fox and Friends First, we talked about the number of social media followers, for example, for Students for Biden versus Students for Trump, a number of about 2,000 versus almost 1 million, and those Super Saturday events that are being hosted by Students for Trump, knocking thousands of doors and getting people excited for November 3rd.
Lakai, has Joe Biden been successful in presenting the issues of young people to you guys?
Well, I think that there's no question that younger voters are not necessarily enthused about Biden, but they are not for Trump. And as a result of that, the polls are reflecting the fact that they're simply going to support Biden and Kamala on this ticket. 1 in 5 young voters that were slated to vote Republican now in this election are expected to vote Democratic.
Interesting. Okay, Ophelia, last final word to you quickly.
I think President Trump definitely has the enthusiasm on his side. He is not a regular politician. He knows how to rally up the crowd. He stands behind our country, its citizens, and its foundations. And when Joe Biden says that America is just an idea and that we truly haven't lived up to it, it makes me question whether or not he has true faith in this country and in its citizens as well.
Obviously, we have disagreements on the issues and which candidate is best to go forward, but I think all of us on this panel can agree you all are young and I am old. Isabel, Lakai, and Ophelia, we thank you so much for your time this morning. Great insight and a voice that isn't oftentimes heard. We appreciate it. Jillian, over to you.